Hey guys, and welcome back to Mental Fitness with Neha, the workout for your mind. So, on today's episode, we have with us Miss Pooja Chopra. Pooja Chopra is an Indian actress and she won the title of Femina Miss India World 2009. She was the first Indian to win the title Beauty with a Purpose at Miss World 2009. And she was also awarded the Times Most Powerful Woman Award for her contribution in the field of acting and has done multiple projects like Commando, Ayari, and Poison 2 to name a few. So, hi Pooja ma'am, and thank you so much for being on the show today.
Please call me Pooja Neha.
Oh,
And
okay.
pleasure is all mine.
Okay. So to start off, one of the main purposes of this show is sharing stories of people who do what they love. Because I believe when you do what you love and you have a purpose which is greater than yourself, it's just easier to be in a mentally happy place. So I think you found this for yourself through acting. And I wanted to understand, how did it all start for you? Did you always know you wanted to be an actor, or how did your journey start?
I wish I knew I always wanted to be an actor, then I wouldn't have studied so hard, maybe,
Oh.
and then got ranks in class. But actually, I started off, I remember when I was in my fourth or the sixth grade, somewhere around that time, I wanted to be an IAS officer. I was hugely inspired by Kiran Bedi, and she had a very strong and huge influence on me. And throughout my school, I was a tomboy. I was one of the brighter students in class. My teacher thought I'd probably become a doctor or an engineer or something. They were pretty shocked to learn the newspapers that I won Miss India. They're like, oh my God, we thought you'd become a doctor or engineer or something. You were so bright and so good in studies. So, but I think this happened, honestly, Neha, it happened more by chance than by choice. Because when I was in college, I got picked up for various fashion shows and beauty pageants and everything. And that's when I realized that probably I like being in the spotlight. When I'm on stage and a question is being thrown at me, when there are people looking at me, when I'm doing something right and people are looking up to me, I realized it then that probably I like this feeling. I like to have the spotlight on me. And I did a couple of ad campaigns, and my face was on the billboards of my city. So in college, I was something like a star is probably a way too strong word, but I was really known in my college, because literally right outside my college was this huge idea billboard right outside my college at the gate with my face plastered on it.
Oh.
So I was like, yeah, that's me. So yeah, I mean, gradually I understood that Pune city pageants are like, it's limited to a city and all of that. And somewhere during college time, the dream and ambition of being an IAS officer, I guess, faded with time. And then I wanted to be someone who people look up to, someone who can probably set a statement, someone who can be a trendsetter of sorts. So modeling happened. Miss India was the gradual progression in terms of my thought.
Okay.
And I really worked extremely hard for it, because I'd seen so many interviews of previous winners, and they would say how they were living a fairy tale life. And Miss India is a very big deal. Even back in college, it was like, oh my God, Miss India. I mean, that
Yeah.
famous expression and all of that.
I was coming to Miss India only next. So, I actually saw this TED talk which you gave, and it was so, like, I was really moved by it, by the way. So, you spoke about Miss India, which was like a goal you really wanted. Like, you were literally a college girl, and then you had this goal, and then you just went for it. So, in a way, it was like you almost manifested it for yourself. Like, you did everything in your power to make it happen. So, tell us a little about that journey. How did you, I think manifest is the word for it. How did you literally manifest that?
I think manifestation, I didn't even know what manifestation is then back then. But because I was working so hard for it in terms of everything, I had taken the help of a journalist to make me go through the question answers. I had a designer friend to do my clothes. I used to visit my dermat. I was taking care of my hair, of my skin, of my diet. I made sure I read a lot of newspapers, read a lot of books, watch the prior pageants, watch interviews of the previous winners. So I made sure I literally did everything one could possibly do to not participate in a pageant, but actually to win the pageant. And every night I slept, I only imagined what life of these winners were from the interviews. And I always thought, what would I do? Where would I be? How would I be when 20 cameras are thrusted on my face, and they ask me about global issues and stuff. So it was a very subconscious thing, but it just used to happen. It was literally like you could give me a poisoned broccoli and say, please eat this, you're going to win the pageant, and I wouldn't bat an eyelid and I would just eat it. Okay. Like it was literally, Hindi में वो word होता है जुनून और English में कहते हैं passion. So Miss India literally ran in my bloodstream, and how? I don't have words to explain it, but Miss India was literally like a junoon. When you work so hard towards something and then you finally get it, one, it takes a very, very long time to sink in. And secondly, then you feel that all your hard work and perseverance and consistency has all earned fruit. So it only gives you more confidence to work hard for your next goals, because because I came from nowhere, Neha. I was a normal, regular school-going girl. There was no one to advise me, no one to guide me. There was no friend, there was no family. There was no one who even told me M of Miss India or what it was, firsthand. All I could learn or read was maybe internet, TV, and all of that. So then I understood that.
As you just said that, sorry to interrupt, but you just something very interesting, that you were just a normal girl, right? So when you started this process, so what did your friends think? Like, how was that? Like, mentally, what other people think about you? How was your friends' reaction? You said, okay, I want to be Miss India. So like, did they take it seriously?
They, I think, laughed it off. I don't think anyone took it so seriously. They're like, yeah, okay, fine. Because I was already modeling. I was already on the billboards, in the newspapers, in the magazines of Pune. So all the friends probably thought that, oh my God, maybe she's aiming too high. But I don't think I took them seriously. Whatever their reactions was, it wasn't, very, what would you say, averse, or it was like, oh yeah, okay, cool. It was like, okay, fine. Okay. Yeah, cool. Okay. Good for you. Whatever. So nobody took me seriously, honestly. But I just brushed it off. It didn't bother me what they thought. Even if they thought that, oh my God, yes, of course you can do it. Or if they thought, like, come on, what rubbish, of course, stop dreaming. But I don't think it even went inside, or it hit me. Whatever their reaction was, it was immaterial, because I knew what I wanted. So whatever anybody thought didn't matter to me. I don't know why, I don't know how, but it was just that I was made of iron and steel, and whatever you throw at me, hit at me, it's just, I'm going to remain unaffected. In fact, at a point, I still remember a very close friend of mine telling me that, listen, I'm scared for you. I'm worried because you're so into it. And just in case it doesn't work out, I'm scared how you're going to take it, because I don't know how you're going to take it, because I'm otherwise a very sensitive and emotional girl. So he was actually kind of concerned. So yeah, but I think I was just too deep into it to even realize how deep into it I was, because I was eating, sleeping, dreaming, walking, dancing, singing, talking Miss India. There was nothing else. Like, that was my world. Literally all of my world. So yeah, that's when I think I realized, after I won the pageant, that no dream is too big to reach. All you have to have is conviction and work hard towards it. It could be anything. It could be as bizarre as, I don't know, own a house on the moon, which is no longer like a dream, but you can still own. But you can. It is the fact. Today's day and age, I can tell you with conviction that once you have your goals set, your focus on something, and then you work hard towards it, I don't think there's any stopping at all.
You wanted it so bad, and you were so focused on it that what anyone else said didn't matter. It was you and your dream. Yeah. You also said something that's very interesting right now, which is that once you work so hard for something and you get it, you don't know how to react. That's a different ulta problem, I think. So my thing was, so the end result, which is winning that title finally, was one thing, but there was also an entire journey you went through to get there. So sometimes we set our eyes on some goal, and we get the goal and we're like, oh, I got it, so what? But there's an importance of enjoying the journey. So did you also enjoy the journey of becoming Miss India, the person you were, the college girl who transformed into Miss India? Was that journey something which you enjoyed as well?
Neha, you can never reach your destination until and unless you enjoy the journey. I'll tell you why. Because I'd learned this, I've read somewhere. With one eye focused on your goal, you're just left with one to guide you through the journey. That's half-baked. It's like a half-baked cake. You're never going to get a perfect cake. So you have to have the focus and the goal at the back of your head, yes. But both your eyes have to be fixed on the journey, for sure. Because otherwise, if you don't enjoy it, if you're not, like they say, what is the word for it? There's a word for it. To be in the moment. Right? So until unless you're not in the moment, you're not going to be able to grasp it, soak it, take it all in. Until the time you don't live 100% of every moment, you're never going to be able to reach successful, be there, successfully reach your goal.
Now let's come to acting. So as an actor, what is the biggest challenge you face today?
I think getting my hands on a kind of project that I would like to do, that would interest me. I'm a person who's all heart, I can't force myself into doing something that my heart is not into, ever. So hence I would probably, and I've always been like that, even as a kid, if I like the food, I will eat it, but I'm not going to eat something that I don't like. I can't force myself. I can't push myself to do something that I don't like or my heart is not into it. So same thing for movie projects. Definitely a drawback that, I don't come from the film industry, so there are no producers lining outside my house, with scripts. So I'm able to probably say yes to one project in 1 or 1.5 years, as opposed to probably doing 3. Even today I can do 3 projects a year, but they are not going to be projects that I enjoy doing. I'm not going to be completely into it. So I'm okay. For me, it's always been, quality over quantity. So I think the biggest challenge for me as an actor is laying my hands on a good project that I would really want to do and be a part of.
Okay. Also, in your profession of acting, I think a very common thing is rejection. So what do you tell yourself in your low points when you probably have a string of them, or how do you get out of that low mindset?
I don't think I even think too much about it. Yeah, it does affect me. But what I do is I spend time with my family and friends and I just kind of brush it off. I don't think it stays for a very long time. I remember 2 projects that I lost. Those were hard. I took off for a holiday with my granny after one of them didn't work out for me, because it was literally like I just had to go and sign the project because all the formalities were done. But for whatever reason, it didn't work out. So I took off to Dharamshala with my grandmother for a week. And another project that I was meant to do, which my heart was literally crying and craving for, that didn't work out again in the end. Because, it's literally like your expectations keep soaring higher the moment each step gets cleared. And then in the end, for whatever reason, it doesn't work out. So it all falls flat. That's when it's the worst. If in the beginning it doesn't work out, you can brush it off and move on, maybe in a day, max 2. But if it's literally there till you've signed the project and then it hasn't worked out for you, or you just have to go and sign the project, then it's hard. And I think there's literally been, or maybe I remember 2 instances because they were the initial ones, and after that I got a little pro at not letting it, affect me so much. And they're always, I think whenever you have something that's kind of weighing you down, you look at things that have actually made you happy, be it professionally. So things that have made me happy, then you count those. That, babe, you came from nowhere. You are the first Miss, first Beauty with a Purpose winner for the country. You won Miss India with no support, with nothing. I mean, how many people today can stand and say that I've done whatever I've done all by myself? So then and the moment you start counting those, then these start becoming smaller and then these start fading away, I think. So that's what I do. And then therapy with my friends and family always helps. So I think combined, it's like a combined measure. You count your achievements, your blessings, and the things that you how far you've come, and then of course your family and friends are always there who have your back.
Yeah. And I'm curious, is there any self-talk involved? Because you seem like a very, because I know you, so you are a very self-driven person. So do you tell yourself something like, we got this? Is there self-talk going on?
I think that's actually a default function. It's not it's not something that I've induced or I had to learn. But I think it's like a default function since I've been a kid, because I've always wanted to win. If I don't win, I don't eat. I go back to bed crying. Because, you know, when you like to be on the spotlight is when you're the star, when you're the winner, right? So the moment you lose or you come second, you can't take it. I'm a sore loser. So since I've been a kid, it's been of course you got this. And come on, if not you, then who? What is wrong with you? How can you even doubt yourself for a fraction of a second? Go look at yourself, see who you are. Your born is Pooja Chopra. What's wrong with you? So, you know, I think it's a very default setting. Unfortunately, I think maybe it's because of the confidence that that was instilled in me very, very early on in life. Because, you know, elocution competitions I used to win. I was a prefect. I was one of the naughtiest kids in the class. I was literally, I stood ranks. I was in the top 3. So all of that in my growing formative years. So in those years, if you undertake whatever competitions, projects, and you get a lot of confidence out of those, then it does form like a base, like a foundation. That's why they say, please encourage your kids. You know, even if they've lost, even if they failed, still tell them they're good at it, and, you know, to go for a second turn. So yeah, that helped. And yeah, because that's a default setting, I think the self-talk happens on a very subconscious level.
Yeah. And you spoke about your confidence, and you're remarkably, I think, a very, very confident person. So what is the secret behind your confidence?
I'll tell you a secret. Secret of confidence, I had just, in fact, it was one of the phrases that I had just, you know, posted on my Instagram, I think last week or something. The confidence is simply adhering to the promises that you made to yourself. So if I say I'm going to wake up at 6 o'clock and study, I bloody am going to wake up at 6 o'clock and study. I mean, let the entire house be on fire, but you will see me wake up and, you know, turn off the alarm and wake up and study. So it's just merely whatever promise you made for yourself, sticking to it and doing it. Because that's what makes you believe in you. If I can't keep my own promises, I'm never going to be able to keep anyone's promises. What does that make me a loser? So you have to believe in you first. And for me to believe in me, I have to keep the promises I make to myself first. So the moment you keep your promises that you make to yourself, yeah, you're confident, because I've kept my promise. I can keep your promise too. That's it.
Yeah, that makes sense. You know, as an actor, it takes a lot of courage to put yourself out there, and there's a certain amount of vulnerability needed. So how do you deal with the, like, what will people think of me angle? Or you don't care? I'm genuinely curious.
Yeah, no, the thing is, the best part, I think, when I was in my 11th or the 12th grade is when I just started modeling. So like I told you, in Pune pageants, in any pageant, there's always a swimsuit round. And 15, 17 years ago, wearing a swimsuit was a big deal for a family that has nothing to do with either modeling or acting. So I had my masis and my relatives call my mother up and meet them and say, "Ye ladki ko kya kara rahi hai? Ye nangi kyun ghum rahi hai? Why is she not wearing her clothes? Why is she, you know, wearing half her clothes and she's in the newspapers? What rubbish? What is this Miss Pune and Miss this and Miss that? Izzat kahan hai?" and all of that. And I remember then that my mother gave them a shut up call. I know what my daughter is doing, and I know she's not doing anything wrong. And it's fine. I'm happy. If you're not happy, it's fine. But I'm happy with whatever she's doing, and I'm with her. I know what she's doing. Yeah. And I was like, okay, so it really doesn't matter what other people think of you. My mother didn't care. Why should I? So, but I'm not going to lie. There are still times when, seldom, I should say, literally once in a blue moon, there'd be some comment that I'd probably not like. And then I'd be like, okay, come on, I'm not chocolate and everyone's not supposed to like me. It's fine if he doesn't like. He just has to up his standards.
Yeah. I don't think everyone likes chocolate also nowadays, to be honest. But yeah. Okay. Now coming to another very important topic, which is, you know, persistence. Like, you won Miss India Award in 2009. We are in 2021.
Yep.
You've done so much. So what fuels you? What keeps you going?
I think the thrill of doing something new all the time. Because I am not a person who can settle for monotony. I very early on in life, I remember I had, announced in my house that I'm never going to do a 9 to 5 job when I didn't even know what I'm going to grow up to do. I was like, I'm never doing a 9 to 5 job. I'm never going to go to the same office, have some files, look at the same people. It's way too boring for me. So I think even today, even right now as we speak, no 2 days for me are the same ever. Even if I'm shooting, I'm never shooting the same scene for 2 days. So I think that's the exciting part, that you go out and chase, you go get a new project. So right now I'm working on a project which is Jahan Charyar. I'm doing a very, 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 very different role. So I'm extremely kicked about it. So I am meeting people who are close to my character. I'm watching TV shows, TV series. So this is something new that I've never done, right? So I'm going for the character. So I think that's why I'm waking up. My diet has now been altered to the next character that I'm playing. So the whole look, the clothes. So the brain is always working. And I think because of that excitement, that there's something new that I'm doing, there's something new that I have to go for, something new. That's what kicks me. That's what fuels my energy and enthusiasm. And I think persistence is probably definitely my second name, because I know I can't have it any other way. People, you can be blessed, you can be talented, but your hard work and your persistence is never going to let you down. Yeah, and you can be talented and blessed and be lazy. So yeah, but if you're not as talented and if you're not as blessed, but you are hardworking and you are persistent, you're going to win. You're going to get there. So yeah, persistence, definitely the key.
Beats talents. Yeah, hard work beats talent. Okay. So also, do you ever, you've achieved quite a bit so far. Do you feel any sort of pressure to live up to expectations as such? And if you do, is it external? You don't?
No, because I have honestly been blessed with a wonderful mother, touch wood, because she's never let me feel what pressure feels like when I was a small kid. So I've grown up with my mom and my sister. Single-handedly, she's brought us up. There's not been a father figure in my life. Even then, there was never a kind of pressure that you have to perform well, or I don't know, you have to live up to expectations. Mummy has always told Didi and me both that do what makes you happy. When I wanted to be an IS officer, she said, fine. When I said I want to participate in Miss India, she said, okay. When I said I want to be an actor, she said, all the best. When my sister came up and she said she wanted to marry a Catholic boy, my mother said, you're happy? She said, yes, I'm happy with him. My mother said, fine. For her, all that mattered was our happiness. So even today, if I tell my mother, Mom, I want to retire and I want to go settle in the hills, she'd say, okay, that'll make you happy. I'd be like, yeah, she'll say, go. So hence no pressure. And for me, I don't know who lives next door or who are the people, external pressure who would probably be able to apply on me. But I don't think it affects me. I think I am a very happy-go-lucky person. I think that's why I work at my own pace. I'll take one project in 2 years, but I'll make sure I'll be proud of it. I'll put in my all, and I'll chill. I'll do my other things. So I'll do whatever makes me happy. One life, it's like YOLO. You have only one life. You can't keep running. You can't keep feeling the pressure. You can't just keep chasing goals. That you have to do what makes you happy, even if it is relaxing for a bit and then going again, or just going on running. Anything that makes you happy.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. You also brought up your mom, and I think your mom is very, very pivotal to your journey and who you are today. So how do you think your mom pulled through when it was difficult earlier, and how did she stay mentally strong?
But I don't know what her secret is. I've asked her a gazillion times in so many of her interviews. Every journalist had possibly asked her the question that from where did you get this strength? And she always said she had one constant answer, that every time I felt low or I felt giving up or I felt, why is this happening to me, God, and all of that, I just looked at these two innocent faces and these two pairs of eyes that were innocently staring at me. And that's it. That was the end of the world. That's where I got my energy from. That's where I got my happiness from. So whatever hard work I did, the moment I'd come and see their smiling faces, I would get my energy back. So that's what she says. Probably, I don't know, that's how mothers feel. I don't know, I'm yet to get there. But that's been her answer, that I don't know where she gets her strength. I wish I knew. I really wish I knew.
Okay. Yeah, I think mothers really have a superpower when it comes to their kids. That's true. Okay, coming to a special segment of the show. So this is called the happy place. Okay. So I think all of us have either a practice, a person, a ritual, something that we do, or even a place that when we go to when we are at an emotional low, it just lights us up. So what is your happy place?
Uh, hmm. I don't think I have one constant happy place. It so for instance, sometimes I would just plug in some music and go for a run. Okay. Sometimes I would watch a film like a light-hearted, some rom-com that would make me feel better, like a feel-good film,
Yeah.
or like a motivational film. Sometimes I would just go to my mother, just be with her, just be around her. It makes you feel better always. Sometimes I just go out with my friends, have coffee, have lunch, have dinner, feel better. So it's, I think, different things at different times for me.
So coming to the last question of the show. So it's now, imagine if all your life experiences, everything you've gone through has taught you one thing. What is the one mental fitness truth that you live by? Something that you wish you'd known when you were younger.
It's most important to love yourself first. Because, you know, in life, what happens sometimes you probably put a goal in a higher pedestal than you yourself.
Yeah.
You'd probably put some person. You'd probably put a friendship. You could probably put a romantic relationship. You probably put anything which in your head becomes bigger than yourself. That is wrong.
Yeah.
I think the biggest person in your head should be you. Should not be anything else. Everything else comes later. So yeah, this is the one thing I think I wish if I knew earlier. In terms of everything, of everything that has let me down, professionally, personally, that you first. I think it would have affected me lesser. Yeah. So yeah, that one.
I think that's an incredibly powerful mental fitness truth to live by. Yeah. Okay, so I think this conversation that we've had is, a lot of people are going to take away a lot of things from it, and it was deeply. I had a lot of fun talking to you and learning all this about you. And once again, thank you so much for being on the show. It was really a lot of fun to talk to you.